long, I promise.
Yeah.
Promise. But, so, Taylor, I appreciate you being here. Again, this is the Low Value Female Podcast, a place where we seek to decouple the female sex with economic resources. I'm here, as always, with Taylor, and we're going to start off today with something new. All right, yeah, you should say something.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's enough. Yeah, so I want to try to start up something new to patter, break the ice. So we're going to take from the book of questions, and I'm just going to flip through randomly.
Is that a Bible book?
It's not, thank God. It is about values. It's by Gregory Stock, and it's one of the things that I wanted to take on speed dating with me.
Yeah.
To hey, because there's a lot of value questions, and so I basically wanted to take it out of speed dating instead of asking inane questions like, what do you do for a living? How many brothers do you have? I don't actually care about your family situation. I want to know, are you willing to kill a 6-year-old if it cures all the cancer in the world?
Oh.
Things like that. That's where the real questions come in.
Yeah, the whole homeless problem.
Omelas, yes, the ones who walked away from Omelas.
Yeah.
Is that Ursula Le Guin?
Yes, it
yeah. So
amazing.
So this one, 216. So here's the question. You become romantically involved with someone, but after a couple of years realize you want out. What would you do if you were convinced that your lover would commit suicide if you left?
Well, that's emotional manipulation on their part.
I agree. I'm kind of the opinion that that was there before me.
I would the first thing that came to my mind is that I would just have them involuntarily committed.
Yeah. If you are convinced that something is dire going to happen, and if you care about them at all, yes, I think that's probably the answer. Is you can't sacrifice your happiness and your life for the sake of another person.
Yeah. Just get them with the month-long Haldol injection. That'll really solve the problem, at least long enough for them to get over it.
Man, Haldol was a fucking lifesaver. It really saved people lobotomies.
Yeah, I mean, it was the original one that they had in the month-long injectables, but you can get a lot of different antipsychotics that way nowadays.
I generally don't want people to. I think we're kind of in agreement about that. You can't manipulate someone to be in a relationship with you. That's not going to be good for them. Nobody fucking wants that. But this is kind of the problem with trad wives. That why I don't think men want trad wives.
Yeah.
They don't unless you are incredibly psychotic, unless you have zero empathy for human beings and you just want someone as a little automaton to serve you.
Right.
Then I guess that's the relationship for you. But unless you are like that, you probably want a human that you like.
I had a friend in college who I got into an argument with about that towards the end of them, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want a woman who's my equal. I want basically sexual intercourse and some light house cleaning." And
a bang maid.
Yeah, a bang maid. Exactly. And I was like, dude, what the fuck?
Sounds awful.
Yeah. You have to spend all your time with this person. I want someone who I can talk to and who cares about things that I care about. And we can have interesting conversations and stuff, not just someone who is my domestic servant.
I could just hire a domestic servant for that. I feel like seems wage. I don't know. There's a lot involved in that. That's weird.
If you're enough of an alpha, then you should be able to afford a domestic servant, right?
That actually ties in really nicely because today we're going to be talking about toxic femininity, and I've been thinking way too much about it, especially in regards to TERFs, because I feel like TERFs are the essential high value females. And we'll kind of get into why, but my first point about toxic femininity is toxic femininity requires sexualization as well as the embodying of the paradoxical rational, with a hypercompetence. So like, we're talking about the fuckmate, but you also want like her to look good to others.
Right. I mean, that's like half of the point is the arm candy.
And it's more than that. Like, I think people keep bringing this up, like stoicism and like what Marcus Aurelius said about stoicism in his meditations. But a lot of Stoics also like talked about how like you want a woman to understand this stuff so you have someone to talk to. But at no point is she going to be nearly as good as a man.
Okay, yeah.
And that kind of goes back to their, what is it? Greek culture, right?
It's Marcus Aurelius was a Roman.
But I think I watched the ContraPoints on Stoicism, and it was interesting. There's a lot in it. It's not a monolith, certainly. But generally the original Stoics were very much of the culture that women, they should know this stuff, so like they're not boring to be around.
I mean, that's slightly better than most ancient dudes, I have to admit.
You're getting slightly better, progressing.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but
yeah. So this kind of like real woman status, like I feel like the TERFs really like, because of their exclusivity, their walled garden, as it were. It's really been they're trying to tell people what women are versus what women are not. They want ultimately an ability to control the definitions of what women are.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it like a woman is someone who produces large gametes and a man is someone who produces small gametes, whether or not the person in question actually produces those gametes?
If you're going to like make it that hard of a scientific question, like, okay, so we can probably be fine with that, but then you have on top of it, well, then therefore you should like football, or therefore you should like ballet, or therefore like, but I'm fine if you want to define terms in those exclusive terms, but then you have like all of this other stuff that you were trying to shoehorn and kind of like, well, we understand.
Well, it's also like kind of excludes, intersex people, to which they reply, the exceptions don't count, more or less, and to which trans people typically reply, oh, well, there's only hydrogen and carbon atoms in the universe. The exceptions don't count. Because that's like 98% of the universe is like hydrogen and carbon atoms.
And we are made of exceptions, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's a big fucking universe, and just because something is not frequent or is particularly rare, it doesn't mean that it's not important or useful or something that we should consider.
Is that you can just make a category that ignores it.
Absolutely. More than that, like, and I see this all the time. Are you familiar with James Baldwin?
Yes.
So I have only recently learned about James Baldwin, and I wish I knew more about him. He seems incredibly fascinating. But he has a great excerpt from Giovanni's Room. Are you familiar with this book?
No.
It's about, so the protagonist is David, and he is a homosexual during, I think, 1930s. And he hates homosexuals. Yeah. And like in some of these excerpts, he's having like a love affair with a guy, and is basically like calling him a fairy, and just like
basically like William Dafoe's character from the Boondock Saints. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't be such a fag.
Don't be such a fag about it. Yeah, exactly. Like it. So he is going to marry this woman, Hella, and Hella. And she has a very, like, she understands who he is. She knows that she herself, I think, is queer and has, like, other love affairs. But she says this when talking to him about what does it mean for them to get married? Because they're going to get married. They have to get married. Society is expecting them to get married. But more than that, she says it is for herself and it is personal. She says, what I mean about being a woman is we might get married and stay married for 50 years. And I may be a stranger to you every instance of that time, and you might never know it. For a woman, I think man is always a stranger. And there's something awful about being at the mercy of a stranger. And he replies, well, men are at the mercy of women too. Have you ever thought of that? She says, men may be at the mercy of women, and I think men like the idea. It stokes the misogynist in them. But if a particular man is ever at the mercy of a particular woman, why, he somehow stopped being a man. And then the lady, then, is ever more trapped.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's what I'm always saying about male masculinity being an unstable subject position within patriarchy, because you have to keep reaffirming it through misogyny. Otherwise, you're not a man.
And I think, like, the masculine rituals of, like, pain and suffering and, like, don't flinch, don't flare, don't show emotions. Those, I am not going to say that I think that we should throw out all ordeal rituals. I think coming of age rituals are important, and I would like to find a way for our culture to reclaim that. But it definitely... So the male rituals are not just like disciplining of the body, but it's also like a freeing of like libidinal energy. Like, because men are men, and this goes back to like toxic masculinity, they are allowed to do anything they want. And like what they want to do is dominate others and go fuck off. Like, they want to go hit the old dusty trail after they bang that chick.
Right.
And so what women's job for a society to function is to bring them back and to be the gatekeepers of morality. They have to be in the unfun position of, no, you can't do that, because a society is built on no.
Oh, like how moms are always the bad parent.
Right. They're the unfun one.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, and there was a lot of flack a little while ago about, like, the fun dad versus the mom.
Yeah.
Like, if mom brings home McDonald's, she's a bad mom. Why don't she fucking cook? Right. When the dad brings up, oh, what a fun dad. Oh, what a treat. And it's because that is understood culturally as a rare occurrence.
Right.
And so...
Well, because he's not expected to help with the reproductive labor, and so the fact that he's doing anything at all to do that is an accolade to him, whereas it's simply an expectation of the woman.
Women have to be like, that's their level. Exactly. Like, that's baseline. You have to keep a clean house and keep your children fed, and that is just baseline for you. And if a guy has the kids, well, I can't. Oh man. Remember all those 90s, like, shows and movies about, like, single fathers, the wife died or something like that? Oh, like Full House.
Yeah.
And he's just failing. He needs, like, a whole team of people to replace the woman. The one woman needs, like, a whole team of guys.
Yeah, it's like how we have a friend who their dad took out a life insurance policy on their mom because if their mom died, he would need to hire help.
Yeah, because he can't do it himself.
Yeah.
And that is pretty typical. Like, that's the other part, is that all of this masculine, like, energy is, like, freed and inflamed so that capitalism can happen. So that those at the very top can be like, yes, guys, go do the thing, make me that money. And when they retire at 60 years old, they have no other skills. They don't know how to cook for themselves. They don't know how to clean themselves. They don't know how to do anything themselves for domestic.
Know how to make plans with other people to hang out.
Oh my God, that really irritates me. I have tried in all of my relationships to avoid that, and sometimes to my detriment. And, like, I think a lot of that goes back to, like, my social anxiety. But I don't want to be the person that makes socialization happen. I'm not. am not super good at it, and B, like, I cannot be responsible for whatever, mostly because my partners generally are assholes. My husband is no exception to this. My current husband is no exception to this. And I don't want to be responsible for what he does in public because he has no shame. And that's a hard thing to wrangle.
Yeah, you're telling me.
I mean, you met him in college.
Yeah.
When he was more unwranglable.
I mean, the first time we ever met, not the first time we ever met, one of the first times we ever hung out, he is like, watch this. And he takes off running, jumps up onto a picnic table, and then outside of the dorms that we would end up later living in together, and jumps and attempts to jump over the barbecue grill that's installed there. But it had been raining the day before, and so his shoes were muddy, and so he slipped and ate it chest first into the barbecue grill.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then he started bleeding from that and like took the blood and drew a little smiley face on himself.
I'm so glad he's better now because I'm not good at wrangling. College days. Those were the heady days when you could do anything and nothing.
Yeah, he would tell me all these stories, and I was like, is this guy full of shit? But it turns out, no, he's not.
He's just had a serendipitous life where, was it? Oh, the one that your mother confirmed, which was the wood chipper.
Oh, yes. Where the Mexican guy who was mowing the lawn across the street from him, he was mowing the lawn at his grandma's house, and there was a guy across the street running a wood chipper by himself who had jammed a log into the safety lever, which obviously you shouldn't do. And it
didn't do that.
It caught his hand, and he got pulled through it and splattered. And my mom saw it in the newspaper.
Yeah, John said it. He had to like wash out the blood and the bone particulate from his hair.
Yeah,
which like in a wood chipper, yeah, you just have like splinters of bone, and that is weird.
At least it would be fast, I guess.
What a serendipitous life. Glad he's better now.
Yeah.
But like that is kind of like the job of like women is to like bring them back to and also not only that, but you have to enjoy it.
To be a civilizing force.
Yes, exactly, a civilizing force, while also being completely irrational. You know how ladies are.
Oh, yeah.
They on their period, whatever.
What's the emotionality that's the civilizing thing, right? Because you have to maintain those social bonds, and those are built through emotion, not through reason, which is the property of malehood, right?
Exactly, yes. The masculine is laid claim to reason, as if femininity did not have reason. This goes back to like the thing I was saying about the Holy Ghost being just a manifestation of, what is it, Astra and Sophia worship. They call it
Asherah?
Asherah.
Yeah.
That one. The Asherah, part of the ball cycle.
Yeah, I mean, there's several mother goddesses like that, and I mean, you can even go back to Sumerian mythology with that, with the whole, like, when Sargon of Akkad became the first emperor of Sumeria, he rewrote their origin myths to, like, make the mother goddess Tiamat, like, more of an evil force that was overthrown by the,
Oh, is that Tiamat?
I think so.
So it's the Jordan Peterson, like?
Yeah, and overthrown by Marduk, who is, represents the rational forces of civilization. Or malehood in any case.
That's really interesting. So I kind of saw it as like, during a previous relationship, I was with someone who also had like the same amount of like social anxiety and like neuroses that I did, which isn't good. You shouldn't pair those people up. It just creates an echo chamber of neuroses. But one of the things that we used to say is, whenever someone freaked out first or had a panic attack first, we would then thank them for doing so, because if my partner is having a panic attack, I no longer am thinking about my panic.
Right, you're attending to them.
So if I think that in some ways that, like, males can offset some of their emotionality and be kind of freed from that, if they see somebody else freaking out.
Okay.
So if they can, like, if the woman is being irrational and you're prompting her to be irrational and you're expecting her to be irrational, then you no longer have to be irrational.
Oh, right, because then you get to apply your reason to the situation.
It's a lot easier to see things from the outside. It's a lot easier to take care of other people's problems than your own problems. It's why men will do anything other than go to therapy.
Right.
I will destroy the world. I will start a world war before I go to fucking therapy. Because that has to be offset. Now, if the woman goes to therapy, then he can, through her, become healed.
Okay, fair.
That becomes, like, one of the problems with this, with people like fucking Matt Walsh saying, in Lady Ballers. Oh no, it wasn't Matt Walsh. It was Boring, the fucking director. His character in Lady Ballers was say, like, women civilize men by telling you no. By making you, like, act like a human being. You can act like a human being. I believe in you. I believe all of you have it in you to clean up your own messes. Hell, Jordan Peterson's most popular book, The 12 Rules of Life, one of it was cleaning your room.
Right.
So it's okay when he says it, but when your mom says it, it's lame?
Well, yeah, when your dad tells you to do it. But speaking of Matt Walsh, his wife posted on Twitter the other day that, like, oh my God, it was amazing. Let's see if I can remember. Like, he apparently has had a number of, like, pets that he doesn't take care of. Like apparently their dog hates him. Like, their cat gave birth in his lap. Like, and, like, he had these fish tanks, and then he got, like, the guy out there to, like, maintain them, and they're like, these fish tanks are not being taken care of. This, like, almost halfway evaporated.
Oh no!
Yeah, and she's like, this guy does not need to be doing this. Like, we have 6 children.
Oh my God! Or are they okay?
I mean, they're her responsibility.
Oh, okay. Well, then they're probably fine.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Just 6 children?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. Why did all these men have so many children?
Because of Catholic sexual ethics. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna.
Wait, Matt Walsh is Catholic?
Or, well, some sort of fundamentalist.
Is he? Oh, okay. You know more than I do. You're more online than I am. I don't actually know what his religion is. That seems weird.
I would assume he's Catholic, but that may be wrong. Let's see.
The new brand of, like, Christian right?
Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing you were talking about toxic femininity, it, like, goes to, there's this Christian idea, which has actually permeated feminism as well. I think I mentioned something about this in the last episode that called complementarianism. Right. It's like ontological equality, but functional difference. It's like, you're not oppressed as a woman. You just have your own role, which happens to be in the home, it's caretaking, so forth. That's what you're naturally gifted at, and you're naturally not capable of, being part of the polis or whatever, and, like, engaging in rational policy debate and such things, and that because that's masculinity is naturally, rational and such things, as we've been talking about. And so, like, it sets up the patriarchy not as, like, a system of oppression, but, like, a system of, like I said, functional difference, where, like, it just seems like you're being oppressed because you actually want something that's not yours to want.
We should probably just, see women as people and not as just roles.
Well, I mean, and TERFs do that same thing, right?
They do that all the time. And, like, drives me up a fucking wall. And TERFs, this goes to my next point about toxic femininity, which requires women to keep their value as defined by the buyers at any means necessary. So I have some fun facts for you. Do you know Sally Hemings, the mistress of Thomas Jefferson? I didn't know this. She's the half sister of his wife.
What?
Yes. So Sally Hemings, who is the slave mistress of Thomas Jefferson,
Yeah.
is genetically the half sister of Martha, Thomas Jefferson's wife.
Okay, so Martha's dad
Raped the mother
okay.
of the slave. So I think Sally Hemings came from her estate.
Yeah.
So he's like, was smitten with her, I think it was 16 years old.
Yeah, is this some sort of like bride price thing?
No, he genuinely felt an attraction for her. There's like love letters to her, and like there's movies about her where Sam Neill plays Thomas Jefferson. I kind of want to watch that just because I love Sam Neill so much. And I was watching something on this, and like specifically like on interracial marriages, and like this was brought up as like a historical fact. I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't sound very good at all, but the way it's portrayed in a lot of these movies and shows, especially for educational purposes, is it's very much seen as like a give and take relationship.
Right. So there was some measure of equality?
Yes, and I think it felt right because of how we see femininity in general. Like, it's unfortunate that she was a slave, but honestly, she shared a similar fate to a lot of like women during this time of like, well, now you're here and you have to do what I say.
Right.
And just because like that was the other thing, is that white women were allowed to like look down on these other women, and because of that they never fought back against the husband, right? They never fight back against the people that are actually oppressing them. They're too busy getting rid of the competition.
Yeah, the whole creation of whiteness or whatever. Or, I mean, but the other side of that is you can also look at like what Sylvia Federici talks about how like all of the techniques that were used in the in colonization and enslavement of blacks and Native Americans were invented by and practiced on women in Europe.
Yes, that actually was one of the quotes I had from her from Caliban and the Witch. Over-sexualization of women and black men, the witches and the devils, must also be rooted in the position which they occupied in the international division of labor, that which was emerging on the basis of the colonization of America, the slave trade and the witch hunt. For the definition of blackness and femaleness as marks of bestiality and irrationality conformed with the exclusion of women in Europe and women and men in the colonies from the social contract implicit in the wage, and the consequence of naturalization of their exploits.
Exploitation.
Exploitation, yes.
Snaps.
Like, that is... Well, we need to subjugate someone in order to get you, because if you can especially if you're a guy, say, that has a lot of money, and you're like, man, I don't want to like deal with all these people, so I'll just restrict it to the people that look like me.
Sure.
And they, in turn, because of our natural like tendencies to be like, oh, they look like me, therefore they must be a lot like me.
Yeah,
that initial reaction.
You can also look at it kind of as like the first instance of the security state that we live under nowadays, you know, where like women kept playing important roles in rebellions, and so you have to delegate you have to delegate to men, like watching them, because you give men some privileges and be like, okay, but you need to keep these women under control, because that way you don't have to keep the same level of securitization, like at a broad scale.
Right. It becomes generative, and like you can, that does help with like trust, because ultimately, also, again, like civilization is built on like performatives that enshrine trust and complicity, and like we want to be predictable, and that's why we say, hi, how are you? Good, how are you? because we need that back and forth to assert, yes, you are also a human. Because when somebody like gives you a real answer as to, hi, how are you? Depending on how well you know that person, it's always kind of a drag. Like, oh man, I gotta actually listen to you. I thought we were just doing this like call back and forth. Now I have to like actually listen to you.
Yeah, it's interpolation or hailing, which is from this philosopher Althusser. It's an interesting concept. It's like basically like how you're greeted, kind of, but more largely like how you are like placed within the like hierarchy of society based on how people interact with you.
Like in those chimpanzees troops, the matriarchal chimpanzees, where your status is determined by your mother, and then also like how the other women will treat you and how well they groom you.
Grooming, exactly.
Yeah. That was a really interesting one. I had to like research societies because I keep hearing about how it's so natural for monogamy to happen, and I'm like, I feel like there's more out there, especially given how much of whores humans are.
Yeah,
like there's surely more different, and there's like 6 different like types where you have like multi-female, multi-male, you have matriarchal, you have like you do have patriarchal, and then you have just like family groups where it's the father, where you have like the male has all the ladies and he like protects them, and
harem.
The harem like configuration, like those happen mostly in gorillas because they just want a lot of space, that they want to roam around, they are nomadic, they don't need like a society. We as humans are of the primate variety that needs a lot of socialization, like so much more socialization than most other primates. But also about like your value as far as like what is concerned, but from a paper from University of Florida that was talking about sexual economics. We may regard local sexual marketplace as a loose community in which men and women act as individual agents, seeking to find an advantageous deal. Men will act like buyers who want to get a good sex and plenty of sex without spending too much in terms of effort, money, or commitment. Women will act like sellers who want to get a high price for their sexual favors. Each couple may negotiate their own price, but whether this price is a better deal for the man or for the woman depends on how it compares to the going rate within their community. So literally, it is completely rational in an economic terms for women to slut shame.
Yeah.
Because you are, and also not just slut shame, but also be against masturbation and pornography.
Yeah, and to perform, beauty.
You have to like look a certain way, and not only that, but you have to train them to appreciate things. So like someone told me the statistic, and I really hope it's not true. I hope that we're smarter than that, but so we're like 30% of boys between the ages of like 15 to 25 don't think women naturally grow pubic hair.
I mean, wait. I'm not surprised by that.
I feel like that's not. I don't know. I don't want to believe that's true. If there's any there has to be some percentage, I imagine, because there's a lot of stupid people out there. But 30% sound way too high.
Well, I mean, most of those people probably are only seeing porn. Yeah.
But generally in porn, men also don't have pubic hair.
Right.
Well, no, they're only looking at the woman.
Well, but I mean, they know men have pubic hair because they have pubic hair.
And with our declining of having sex, which is really, so there's all of this hubbub about our children not having enough, how the teenagers aren't having sex anymore, 20-year-olds aren't having sex anymore. And then I hear about all this stuff about, well, they're having sex and they're having sex wrong. Like there was a report about the rise of choking.
Oh.
And I don't know if it's the way that they framed it, it felt like they thought, oh, well, there was a time before the internet and hardcore pornography where when people had sex, they didn't automatically assume they were choking. I'm like, no, but I've seen like 70s porns and like 70s movies and what they think sex is. And sex was definitely something a guy did to a woman, and she will eventually learn to like it.
Yeah, I mean, the whole, like, every sex act in 80s movies is a rape.
That is not every 80s movie, but yes, a lot of.
I mean, but that's the whole, like, rape culture thing, right? It's because women are required to say no in order to keep their value, so you have to just push past her boundaries, and then eventually she'll get to the point where it's gone far enough that she's allowed to say yes or whatever, because she's just putting on a front, and it's not really no.
Well, in the paper they talk about women who, want to make a cabal will work together to pressure other women to, like, yeah, you can't give it up unless you commit.
Called price fixing.
Exactly. They're having like, I don't feel like price fixing is a good idea.
Well, it's like based on, or going back to what we were saying about the no. There's this thing going on in Japan right now where women are encouraging each other to use a different grammatical or syntactic or a different, what might you call it? A different crap. Well, the way that women used to say
Conjugation?
Yeah, good different conjugation of when they are like, no, get away from me, basically, because like Japanese porn has like so much of that, and like women will be like, yes, oh, get away from me, get away from me, or whatever, and they, to the extent that that is like become eroticized, and so they need to use like a stronger conjugation, like use it in
like a masculine.
No, in like more of like a do this kind of way rather than like yeah,
than a request,
yeah,
or like a statement of fact, because they don't really use pronouns that much, right? They have like there's an they implied pronouns. Because I only know this because I've known a lot of guys who are into hentai, and then they like to explain to me what they're saying. And it seems like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. I guess, like, instead of, I'm sorry,
imperative.
Oh, sure, yes, okay, yeah.
As a former linguist, I feel ashamed of myself for not knowing that off the top of my head.
Look, you just had a baby.
Yeah, I mean that pregnancy brain, right?
It's the baby brain.
Baby brain.
Because all of your cognitive resources are designed for, like, oh, I have to take care of this small little thing. And the more you are around it, like, the more you feel drawn to it. Again, it's the perfect parasite. It's literally changing your brain chemistry in order to get it to like you.
Get you to like it.
Get you to like it.
Yes.
That's precise.
I mean, she is pretty much all I care about at the moment. That's true.
It's understandable. That's what we need. They're so helpless and dumb and like, oh man, they
like that
at night.
Like that baby in the Under the Skin yesterday. Oh my god, that fucked me up. For those of you who haven't seen it, this alien lady is like just ignores a baby whose parents just drowned, and it's screaming because she's busy with another task, like just designed to like show that she doesn't have human empathy or whatever.
She has zero, like, she can't determine the baby screaming from like the wind or anything else,
right?
And it's just an incredibly like, yes, I really like Under the Skin. So as somebody told me about Under the Skin, apparently the book that it's based on is vegan. It's about veganism. So like the alien is actually like an anthropomorphic animal, and they're eating people.
Okay.
They're hunting and eating people.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's even more lame.
Yeah.
But I like the movie Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson, which is like this idea that an alien is coming and hunting humans. And yes, I think it's implied that she and like the other alien are eating them or doing something with them. And like that juxtaposition of like Scarlett Johansson, pretty lady, predating these guys.
Right.
These guys have zero situational awareness.
Right.
But she's like, yo, are you alone? Are you by yourself? Like, you want to come with me?
Do you have any family or friends who might miss you?
Just like, basically. And they're like, nah, where are we going? What's in this rape van?
Yeah.
It says rape van on the part, but it can't possibly be about me.
Right.
Because I'm the dude.
Right.
Jennifer's Body also has like a similar theme about this where, these, I think, teenage guys try to invoke a demon into Megan Fox's character.
Right.
And she then becomes a demon that goes and predates on these guys, and they, again, have zero situational awareness. And her best friend, who finds out she's a demon, is the one that kills her. Spoilers.
Right.
It's been out for like 10 years. It's fine.
Probably more than that.
Yeah. I really do like Megan Fox as like an actress. And I think one of the more interesting things about that was how much she and her co-star really felt like this message was important about, the objectification of women and how that will lead ultimately into danger.
Right.
Like, these guys are walking in under the skin. The guys are walking into a black void. They open a door following Scarlett Johansson. Johansson just starts undressing, and they just keep following her, even though they're walking into a literal black void. Now, if I'm walking into a black void, I'm going to be aware of it.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I don't know about this.
I feel like I should leave. Yes, exactly. So that was an insane, and also the way she like constructs her femininity, and like you can see this performance that she's putting on. She is now like, she puts on the lipstick, she puts on the clothes, and like starts like trying to talk like, oh, haha, smile, like she's got it. She's a psychopath. She's perfect. And one of the other things that toxic femininity requires, and it kind of goes into this, is that it requires ambiguity, like this mystique. Oh, you don't have any idea what's behind those eyes, right? And that's another thing that like TERFs really like to harp on, is this divine femininity.
Yeah, the gender essentialism, which also goes back, like I was saying, the complementarianism.
It's all the way down. It's a terrible system. It's a bad system. It fundamentally distracts from what's actually going on. It allows opportunistic sociopaths to take advantage of you. By you engaging in this, it is a problem. And like, I wanted to bring up the Monopoly experiments done by, I think it was Paul Piff at UC Berkeley, where, and you can go and find these on YouTube, where they video these people playing Monopoly, and they have skewed one player, and it's random who it is, but people who were skewed, like you can see it in their behavior. They are confident, they're happy, and then the other person who is losing, they know that this game has been skewed, and yet somehow are acting defeated. They feel bad.
Right.
They internalize this failure, even when they see the other person got an advantage.
Right.
It's an incredible thing to watch. And that's what I see when I see a lot of like this talk that I see femininity like performed. And why I think a lot of women get like really into Snapped and true crime. Have you seen Snapped on Annie? I think it was on Annie for a while. It might be on like the True Crime Network now, but it's women who kill their husbands.
Oh yeah.
And there's hundreds of stories like this for all sorts of reasons. Because I don't know, like they get annoyed, they go crazy. Maybe they were just an asshole to begin with.
I mean, I've mentioned to you before that when no-fault divorce was introduced, that the rate of like husband murder went down significantly.
Guys, you want women to have a choice. It'll kill you otherwise. Like, you don't want to die by that. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. Just gonna put ground up glass in your dinner.
I read a book where that was like one of the ways they died, and that is
Yeah, I mean,
it's just internal bleeding all the way down.
yeah. I'm just riffing on Oz.
Oh God, they do that in Oz?
Yeah.
See, this is why I don't watch those.
Yeah.
Like, they're well made, and like I know it's like I don't watch The Wire. I know they're so good, and it's so like poignant and has something to say, and I'm sure, but it's just gonna make me sad, and I don't want to be sad.
Yeah, like
I'd rather be angry.
Zone of Interest.
Oh no, I can't. Yeah, that's that he did. Jonathan Glazer. He did Under the Skin.
Yeah.
Yes, and apparently made a comment at an
Academy Awards, yeah.
What was the comment?
He just made a pro-Palestine statement.
Okay, yeah, I think where he's basically like, you can't use our Jewishness to like justify genocide. Like, and that is true. You can't say it's anti-Semitic to criticize any government, particularly just because they happen to be majority Jewish. Like, that's not the part we're criticizing here. We're criticizing literally a government that is enacting brutal.
Yeah, it's killed like, well, they stopped counting around 30,000, so who knows how many it is at this point. Ralph Nader said it's over 100,000 when he went to visit, but who even knows?
Wait, Ralph Nader's still alive?
Yeah. I didn't know that before I heard about that from him either, so. But I think you'd hear if he died.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, because he was independent?
Yeah.
Running or libertarian? No, independent. He was independent.
Yeah.
Him and
Ross Perot.
Nader wrote a book with someone else about like, I think they were the Green Party for a long time. The candidate for the Green Party, and they wrote
Jill Stein?
Oh no, it wasn't Jill Stein. It was the one before that.
I don't know.
I know it was so long ago because I'm old, and they wrote a book basically saying like, these are all the issues that the left and right agree on, and there was like 50 or so many like issues, and they kind of detailed them briefly, and I thought that was really interesting. Nothing has come out about that since. We've just become more polarized, and I unfortunately think it lays at the feet of capitalism, because marketing requires, nuance and finality. Like,
well, that and the Heritage Foundation, excuse me.
Heritage Foundation.
Yeah. Well, because they want to basically end America as such and bring back feudalism.
They just know that the people don't know what's in their best interest. They know what's in their best interest because they understand what the people need. You don't need to.
What's traditional, 400 years old, 800 years old or whatever, super traditional. Because like all of those things, actually, if you read your Federici, stem from the early modern era. Not that patriarchy obviously didn't exist before that, because capitalism was born from patriarchy and is its handmaiden or whatever, but, it also required the intensification of all those dynamics that's brought them to be into the forms that we recognize as, quote unquote traditional.
Yeah, patriarchy doesn't need capitalism to survive. Capitalism needs patriarchy to survive.
Right.
Because that helps kick the shit down the hill.
Right. You got to keep the hierarchy in place in order to steal the reproductive labor of Black people and women.
And like what that ambiguity and like that feminine mystique really does is that since we don't neatly fit into any particular category, we have to make up lies and like make up ambiguities of like when inevitably there are contradictions. We're like, oh, it's mysterious.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
Well, it's like fascism, like the enemy is both weak and strong.
Yes. Yes. And we have to. Just it is it's very unfortunate. So we're gonna I'll leave it at that because next week I really want to dig into toxic masculinity, but I felt like it was really important to talk about toxic femininity first and try to keep that in mind as we go through like toxic masculinity and how the Father is making a comeback or really never left. He was just there waiting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there was the mother figure or whatever may have been ascendant for a while, but they just were biding their time.
So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.
You're welcome. See you next week.